Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, settlement of dispute, reservation, signature, ratification, acceptance, approval or accession and entry into force. Part 13. Final clauses. Article 119. Settlement of disputes. 1. Any dispute concerning the judicial functions of the court shall be settled by the decision of the court. 2. Any other dispute between two or more states parties relating to the interpretation or application of this statute which is not settled through negotiations within 3 months of their commencement shall be referred to the Assembly of States Parties. The Assembly may itself seek to settle the dispute or may make recommendations on further means of settlement of the dispute, including referral to the International Court of Justice in conformity with the statute of that court. Article 120. Reservations. No reservations may be made to this statute. Article 121. Amendments. 1. After the expiry of 7 years from the entry into force of this statute, any state party may propose amendments thereto. The text of any proposed amendment shall be submitted to the Secretary-General of the United Nations, who shall promptly circulate it to all states parties. 2. No sooner than 3 months from the date of notification, the Assembly of States Parties, at its next meeting, shall, by a majority of those present and voting, decide whether to take up the proposal. The Assembly may deal with the proposal directly or convene a review conference if the issue involved so warrants. 3. The adoption of an amendment at a meeting of the Assembly of States Parties or at a review conference on which consensus cannot be reached shall require a 2/3 majority of states parties. 4. Except as provided in paragraph 5, an amendment shall enter into force for all states parties 1 year after instruments of ratification or acceptance have been deposited with the Secretary-General of the United Nations by 7/8 of them. 5. Any amendment to Articles 5, 6, 7, and 8 of this statute shall enter into force for those states parties which have accepted the amendment 1 year after the deposit of their instruments of ratification or acceptance. In respect of a state party which has not accepted the amendment, the court shall not exercise its jurisdiction regarding a crime covered by the amendment when committed by that state party's nationals or on its territory. 6. If an amendment has been accepted by 7/8 of states parties in accordance with paragraph 4, any state party which has not accepted the amendment may withdraw from this statute with immediate effect, notwithstanding Article 127, paragraph 1. But subject to Article 127, paragraph 2. By giving notice no later than 1 year after the entry into force of such amendment. 7. The Secretary-General of the United Nations shall circulate to all states parties any amendment adopted at a meeting of the Assembly of States Parties or at a review conference. Article 122. Amendments to provisions of an institutional nature. 1. Amendments to provisions of this statute which are of an exclusively institutional nature, namely, Article 35, Article 36, paragraphs 8 and 9, Article 37, Article 38, Article 39, paragraphs 1, first 2 sentences, 2 and 4, Article 42, paragraphs 4 to 9, Article 43, paragraphs 2 and 3. And Articles 44, 46, 47 and 49 may be proposed at any time, notwithstanding Article 121, paragraph 1, by any state party. The text of any proposed amendment shall be submitted to the Secretary-General of the United Nations or such other person designated by the Assembly of States Parties who shall promptly circulate it to all states parties and to others participating in the Assembly. 2. Amendments under this article on which consensus cannot be reached shall be adopted by the Assembly of States Parties or by a review conference, by a 2/3 majority of states parties. Such amendments shall enter into force for all states parties 6 months after their adoption by the Assembly or, as the case may be, by the conference. Article 123. Review of the statute. 1. 7 years after the entry into force of this statute, the Secretary-General of the United Nations shall convene a review conference to consider any amendments to this statute. Such review may include, but is not limited to, the list of crimes contained in Article 5. The conference shall be open to those participating in the Assembly of States Parties, and on the same conditions. 2. At any time thereafter, at the request of a state party and for the purposes set out in paragraph 1, the Secretary-General of the United Nations shall, upon approval by a majority of states parties, convene a review conference. 3. The provisions of Article 121, paragraphs 3 to 7, shall apply to the adoption and entry into force of any amendment to the statute considered at a review conference. Article 124. Transitional Provision. Notwithstanding Article 12, paragraphs 1 and 2, a state, on becoming a party to this statute, may declare that, for a period of 7 years after the entry into force of this statute for the state concerned, it does not accept the jurisdiction of the court with respect to the category of crimes referred to in Article 8 when a crime is alleged to have been committed by its nationals or on its territory. A declaration under this article may be withdrawn at any time. The provisions of this article shall be reviewed at the review conference convened in accordance with Article 123, paragraph 1. Article 125. Signature, ratification, acceptance, approval or accession. 1. This statute shall be open for signature by all states in Rome, at the headquarters of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, on July 17, 1998. Thereafter, it shall remain open for signature in Rome at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy until October 17, 1998. After that date, the statute shall remain open for signature in New York, at United Nations headquarters, until December 31, 2000. 2. This statute is subject to ratification, acceptance, or approval by signatory states. Instruments of ratification, acceptance, or approval shall be deposited with the Secretary-General of the United Nations. 3. This statute shall be open to accession by all states. Instruments of accession shall be deposited with the Secretary-General of the United Nations. Article 126. Entry into force. 1. This statute shall enter into force on the first day of the month after the 60th day following the date of the deposit of the 60th instrument of ratification, acceptance, approval or accession with the Secretary-General of the United Nations. 2. For each state ratifying, accepting, approving or acceding to this statute after the deposit of the 60th instrument of ratification, acceptance, approval or accession, the statute shall enter into force on the first day of the month after the 60th day following the deposit by such state of its instrument of ratification, acceptance, approval or accession. Article 127. Withdrawal. 1. A state party may, by written notification addressed to the Secretary-General of the United Nations, withdraw from this statute. The withdrawal shall take effect 1 year after the date of receipt of the notification, unless the notification specifies a later date. 2. A state shall not be discharged, by reason of its withdrawal, from the obligations arising from this statute while it was a party to the statute, including any financial obligations which may have accrued. Its withdrawal shall not affect any cooperation with the court in connection with criminal investigations and proceedings in relation to which the withdrawing state had a duty to cooperate and which were commenced prior to the date on which the withdrawal became effective. Nor shall it prejudice in any way the continued consideration of any matter which was already under consideration by the court prior to the date on which the withdrawal became effective. Article 128. Authentic texts. The original of this statute, of which the Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian and Spanish texts are equally authentic, shall be deposited with the Secretary-General of the United Nations, who shall send certified copies thereof to all states. In witness whereof, the undersigned, being duly authorized thereto by their respective governments, have signed this statute. Done at Rome, this 17th day of July 1998.